There's a brown plastic bottle sitting on the rail of my back porch right now. It cost me about $1 at the drugstore. It lives in most medicine cabinets in America, and until a few years ago, the only time I touched it was when one of the grandkids skinned a knee. This morning, that same bottle helped me wake up a tray of stubborn pepper seeds, rescued a tomato plant I nearly drowned last week, and cleaned a pair of pruning shears that had been quietly spreading disease from one rose bush to the next without me ever knowing it. $1, one bottle. 15 different jobs in my garden, while the garden center down the road will happily sell you a separate product for every single one of those jobs at $15 or $20 a piece. At least that is how I gardened for years. One expensive bottle per problem. Now stay with me all the way to the end, because there is one mistake with this little brown bottle that can quietly kill the very soil you are trying to help. It is the very first thing most folks do when they get excited about this. And the reason it goes wrong comes down to what one extra bit of oxygen actually does underground. Nobody ever explains that part. I will. I'm Bill, though most folks online know me as Backyard Bill. I garden on a little piece of land in rural Ohio, right alongside an Amish settlement, and those neighbors are my friends and my greatest teachers. I spent too many years fighting my garden with a rototiller and a shelf full of chemicals I could not pronounce, and I lost that war every single season. Most of what I know now I learned across the fence from my friend Daniel. Now, I want you to picture a shelf in your garage or your garden shed. Mine used to hold a fungicide for the tomatoes, a sterilizer for the seed trays, a bug drench for the house plants, and a jug of something harsh for scrubbing the greenhouse glass. Ever those bottles did exactly one job. Every one of them cost somewhere between $10 and $25, and every spring half of them had expired, so I bought them all over. Daniel stood in that shed with me one afternoon a few years back, looked over the whole shelf, and asked me very gently what all of it was for. When I told him, he nodded the way he does, and he said that most of those jobs come down to one thing: getting oxygen where it needs to be and keeping sickness from moving where it wants to go. His family handles most of that with sunlight, clean tools, and healthy soil. But for the handful of jobs where a modern gardener truly needs a helper, the humblest bottle in the house already does them. That is today's list. 15 honest jobs, one $1 bottle of plain 3% hydrogen peroxide, the ordinary drugstore kind. And keep that warning from the start in the back of your mind as we go. The mistake that turns this helper into a soil killer, because before we are done, I will show you exactly where that line sits and why. Now, everything on this list is really one idea wearing 15 hats, and that idea, working with nature instead of against it, is the whole reason I wrote my book. It is called The 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol by Backyard Bill, and it is the complete old world system I learned from my Amish neighbors for building a garden that defends itself from pests without chemicals. It is laid out as a 30-day protocol any home gardener can follow week by week, starting with why modern gardens attract pests and Amish gardens don't, through the 5 defense layers, the 7 foundations, and all 4 weeks of the plan, plus seed saving, hand tools, preserving the harvest, and a common pest field guide. 117 pages. It is $17 right now, marked down from $47. And I will just say plainly, $17 once against a shelf of sprays you buy again every single season is not. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone, right, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, back to the porch rail and that brown bottle. Before the list starts, learn these 3 mixes because the whole video runs on them. The gentle mix is is 1 teaspoon of 3% peroxide in 1 cup of water. That is 1 teaspoon, not 1 tablespoon. The working mix is 1 tablespoon in 1 cup of water, and the rescue drench is 1 cup of peroxide in 1 full gallon of water. 3 mixes. Gentle working rescue. I will repeat each one as we go, so there is no need to scribble anything down yet. Number 1, waking up stubborn seeds. Old seed and thick coated seed like peppers, morning glories, and beets can sit in the dirt for 2 weeks doing nothing. Mix a gentle mix. 1 teaspoon of peroxide in 1 cup of water. Pour it over your seeds in a small bowl. Let them soak for 30 minutes. Then rinse them with plain water and plant as usual. The peroxide softens that hard seed coat so water can get in, and it cleans off any fungus riding on the seed from store. Daniel's family soaks seed in plain water overnight for the same reason, and this is simply a quicker cousin of that old habit. My pepper seeds came up 4 days sooner this spring, side by side against an unsoaked tray. 4 days matters in an Ohio spring. Number 2, stopping damping off in your seed trays. If you have ever watched a beautiful tray of seedlings flop over at the soil line overnight, that was damping off, a fungus that lives in damp seed starting mix. The fix is the same gentle mix, 1 teaspoon per cup of water in a small spray bottle. Mist the surface of the soil lightly once a day until the seedlings have their first true leaves. That is a light mist, not a soaking. The peroxide keeps the fungus from ever getting established on that wet surface, which is the only place it can grab a seedling. But the sickness in a garden mostly travels another way, and it rides in on something you are holding. Number 3, cleaning your pruning shears between plants. This one embarrassed me when I learned it. For years, I pruned a diseased rose cane, then walked straight to a healthy bush and made the next cut with the same blades. I was the disease's delivery man. Now I carry a small jar of straight 3% peroxide, no dilution for this job, and I dip the blades for 30 seconds between plants whenever I'm cutting anything sick. 30 seconds, then wipe on a rag. It costs pennies, and it stops black spot, fire blight, and canker from touring your yard on your own tools. Number 4, sanitizing pots and seed trays. Every used pot in your shed is wearing last year's problem. Before reusing them, wash off the dirt, then wipe or spray the inside with straight 3% peroxide and let them air dry in the sun. No bleach smell, no gloves, no fumes in a closed garage, and nothing left behind afterward but water. I do the whole stack on one warm afternoon in March, and my seedling losses have never been lower. Number 5, ending a fungus gnat problem in your house plants. Those tiny flies drifting up from your potted plants lay their eggs in the top inch of soil, and the larvae chew on roots. This job gets its own mix, so listen close. 1 part peroxide to 4 parts plain water. That is 1 part to 4 parts. Let the pot dry out a little first, then pour that mixture slowly over the top inch of soil. It will fizz. That fizz is the peroxide meeting the larvae and the fungus they feed on, and when it settles, it has already broken down into water and oxygen. 2 treatments a week apart usually ends the whole infestation. Hold on to that image of the fizz, by the way, because it is the doorway to the warning I promised you, and we are getting closer to it. Number 6, knocking back powdery mildew. That white dust on squash leaves, cucumber leaves, and bee balm shows up every humid August in Ohio. At the first sign, use the working mix, 1 tablespoon of peroxide per 1 cup of water in a sprayer. Coat the tops and undersides of the affected leaves in the morning so the foliage dries by nightfall. Repeat every 3 or 4 days while you see white. It will not resurrect a leaf that is already gray and crumbling, so pinch those off, but caught early, it stops the spread for pocket change, and there is nothing on that squash you cannot eat a week later. Number 7, keeping cut flowers fresh. When Esther down the road, and that is not her real name. Out of respect, I change names when I tell stories from the community. When she sends my wife home with a bundle of zinnias, I add 1 teaspoon of peroxide to the quart of vase water, 1 teaspoon per quart. It keeps the water from going cloudy and rotten, which is what actually kills cut flowers, and the bouquet lasts 3 or 4 extra days. Small thing, free, practically. Now that mistake I keep mentioning, the one that turns this bottle against you. The next benefit is where people most often make it, so pay attention here. Number 8, rescuing a plant with root rot. This is the best trick on the whole list. When a plant is overwatered, the soil fills with water and the roots literally suffocate, and then rot moves in on the dying roots. That was my tomato plant last week, drooping in soggy soil after 3 days of rain and my own heavy hand with the hose. The rescue drench is 1 cup of 3% peroxide in 1 gallon of water. 1 cup per gallon, no stronger. Let the soil dry until the top inch is no longer muddy. Then water the plant thoroughly with the drench until it runs from the bottom of the pot or soaks the root zone in the ground. The peroxide carries oxygen straight down to the suffocating roots and kills the rot organisms on contact. 1 treatment, then plain water only, and let it dry properly between drinks. My tomato stood back up in 2 days. Folks lose more houseplants to kindness and overwatering than to any pest in America, and this one drench reverses it. Number 9, waking up tired, compacted container soil. A pot that has held the same soil for 2 or 3 years gets dense and airless, and plants in it just sulk. Once a month during the growing season, water those tired containers with a half-strength rescue drench, which is half a cup of peroxide per gallon of water. Half a cup, not a full cup, because this is maintenance, not a rescue. The oxygen it releases loosens the soil's grip and gives roots room to breathe again. It is not a substitute for fresh compost, and Daniel would be the first to say the real answer is living soil. Think of this as a breath of air for a pot that cannot get one on its own. Number 10, cleaning the greenhouse, the cold frame, and your seed starting area. Algae and mold love warm, damp glass and plastic. I used to scrub mine with the harsh cleaner and then worry about the fumes settling on my lettuce. Now it is straight 3% peroxide in a spray bottle, sprayed on the glass, the shelves, and the trays, left to sit 10 minutes, then wiped. It breaks down into water and oxygen, so there is nothing to rinse away and nothing to worry about drifting onto food plants. The whole greenhouse gets this treatment twice a year, and it costs me 1 bottle. Number 11, keeping the rain barrel from turning green. A rain barrel in July can grow a coat of algae and start to smell like a pond. Half a cup of peroxide stirred into a full 55-gallon barrel keeps the water sweet without harming the plant you pour it on. That is half a cup for the whole barrel, and only when it starts to look green or smell off, not on a schedule. Cheaper than any barrel treatment at the store, and it leaves nothing behind but oxygen. Number 12, protecting cuttings before you root them. When you snip a piece of rosemary, a geranium, or a fig branch to root, that fresh cut is an open door for rot, and rot is why most cuttings fail. Dip the cut end in the gentle mix, 1 teaspoon per cup of water, for a minute or 2 before it goes into your rooting medium, 1 minute in the dip, then plant it. My fig cuttings went from about half surviving to nearly all of them. And remember what I said about the fizz and about oxygen underground. 2 more benefits, and then I am going to pay that promise off in full, because it changes how you use every single thing on this list. Number 13, rinsing the harvest. When the baskets come in heavy in August, potatoes, carrots, and greens carry soil, and soil can carry things you would rather not bring to the kitchen. A sink of cold water with a 1/4 cup of peroxide, that is 1/4 cup, makes a simple first rinse for root vegetables and sturdy greens. Swish them, then rinse everything again in plain water before it goes in the crisper or the canner. Produce keeps longer because you have washed off the spoilage organisms along with the dirt. Number 14, resetting a sick garden bed. If a bed gave you blighted tomatoes or diseased squash last year, the organisms are waiting in that soil for you to plant the same thing again. After you clear the bed in fall, water the bare soil once with the rescue drench. 1 cup per gallon, about 1 gallon per 10 square feet. Once, then pile on compost and leaves for the winter the way my neighbors do. So the living soil rebuilds itself on top of the cleanup. The drench knocks the disease pressure down. The compost brings the good life back. Both halves matter, and you are about to hear exactly why. Number 15, the full sick plant routine. Everything on this list working together. When one plant is clearly struggling, spots on the leaves, gnats in the pot, roots gone soft, here is the whole sequence. Move it away from its neighbors. Spray the leaves with the working mix, 1 tablespoon per cup. Drench the soil once with the rescue drench, 1 cup per gallon. Clean your shears with straight peroxide after every cut you make on it. Then stop, water plainly, and give it 2 weeks. Most plants come back. And the reason you must stop after 1 round is the thing I've been promising you since the porch rail. So here is the payoff. Hydrogen peroxide is nothing but water carrying 1 extra oxygen atom, and that extra atom does not want to be there. It is unstable, restless, looking for something to grab. When it meets a fungus spore, a rot organism, or a gnat larva, it tears into the cell wall on contact. And that violent little reaction is the fizz you see. Then, and this is a beautiful part, the leftovers, plain water and plain oxygen. Nothing lingers, nothing builds up, nothing poisons the well. That is why a bottle from the first aid aisle belongs in a natural garden at all. But that restless oxygen cannot tell friend from enemy. Your soil is not dirt. It is a living crowd, billions of helpful bacteria and fungi that feed your plants and fight your pests for free. The very army the whole Amish approach is built on. Use the strong bottles from the hardware store, or pour the drugstore bottle on straight, or drench week after week, and that oxygen shreds the helpers just as fast as the harmfuls. You end up with clean, dead, sterile soil, a garden that cannot defend itself, and a gardener who has to keep buying rescues forever. That was me for years with different bottles. So the line is this: 3% only diluted to the mixes I gave you, used as a rescue. He told me a remedy you need every week is not a remedy, it is a crutch, and the goal is a garden that hardly ever needs the bottle at all. And that is the heart of what Daniel taught me. The bottle handles the emergencies, but the book is the whole 30 days of building a garden that stops having them layer by layer, so your beds can start defending themselves this season. The 30-day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol, 117 pages, $17 right now instead of $47. Set that against what the spray shelf costs you every single year, and against the plants you lose while the sprays fail, and it is the cheapest thing in your whole garden. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time, there is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So that is the $1 bottle on my porch rail. 15 jobs, 3 simple mixes, gentle working and rescue, and 1 firm line you now know never to cross. Did your folks or your grandparents garden without chemicals? Tell me one thing they did below. Those are exactly the methods worth saving. I read every single one. Next time, I am going to show you why Daniel's family plants a border of 1 particular flower around every single vegetable bed, and how that 1 row of blooms quietly feeds the exact insects that eat your aphids for you all summer long for free. Work with nature, not against it, and I'll see you in the garden.